When English ships finally returned to Roanoke Island in the late summer of 1590, they arrived at a deserted settlement. There were no bodies and no signs of a struggle. The search party found a single word carved into a wooden post. 3 years earlier, this expedition had arrived with a specific goal. Unlike previous military outposts, this group consisted of 115 civilians, men, women, and children, tasked with building a permanent community. This effort was led by Governor John White and supported by influential figures in the Elizabethan court, including Sir Humphrey Gilbert and Sir Francis Walsingham. Among those joining the voyage were White's daughter, Eleanor, and her husband, Ananias Dare. On August 18, 1587, shortly after they reached the island, Eleanor gave birth to a daughter named Virginia. She was the first child of English parents born in the New World. Virginia Dare became a symbol of the colony's long-term goals. Her birth suggested that English-speaking families could establish themselves in this new land through industry and trade. Survival required constant support. Only weeks after his granddaughter's birth, Governor White returned to England to secure additional livestock and tools for the winter. White arrived in London just as war broke out with Spain. The threat of the Spanish Armada kept every English ship in port for defense, trapping White across the Atlantic for 3 years. When he finally returned in 1590, the settlement was empty. The houses were gone, and the colony's goods had been removed from the site, but there were no signs of a catastrophic attack. Before White had left, the group agreed on a signal for danger, a Maltese cross. White carefully checked the structures and trees, finding no such mark anywhere. The only evidence was the word Croatoan, indicating they had moved to join the tribe of their ally, Monteo. Maps from the period place Roanoke Island within the Sounds behind the Barrier Islands. Traveling 50 miles south along that same coastline leads to the island identified on this map as Croatoan. The message provided a literal destination for the relief effort, a set of instructions for White's searching party to follow. Nearly 20 years later, settlers at Jamestown heard rumors that the missing colonists had been killed by warriors under Chief Powhatan near the Chesapeake Bay. However, years of searching yielded no archaeological evidence of the colonists in that region, no human remains, no graves, and no English village sites. Another theory focused on the Spanish governor in Florida, who was known to be searching for English bases to prevent privateering against his treasure ships. But Spanish naval archives from the period make no mention of such an encounter. Records show that their scouts found Roanoke already abandoned. In the 1930s, the Dare stones emerged as a new explanation, claiming to be inscriptions from Eleanor Dare describing years of war and death. While these stones captured national attention, they were eventually exposed as a hoax, further complicating the search for facts. These stories of massacre and forgery distracted from the literal message left on the post. The colonists had a strong relationship with the Croatoan tribe through Manteo, an ally who had visited England and served as a bridge between the two cultures. This chart shows tree ring data from bald cypress trees in the region. The narrow rings during the 1580s revealed the most severe drought in 8 centuries, a period when the settlers could not have grown enough food to survive alone. Relations with mainland tribes like the Sikatan had soured after English soldiers burned an indigenous village over a minor theft. Joining Manteo's people on Hatteras Island was the most viable strategy for survival during a period of extreme resource depletion. The colonists ensured their survival by integrating with the Croatoan, adopting indigenous knowledge in exchange for cooperation. Modern excavations on Hatteras Island have uncovered 16th-century European artifacts within indigenous village layers. Archaeologists have found significant amounts of hammer scale and Elizabethan musket balls, suggesting that the colonists continued to work metal and hunt alongside the Croatoan. In 1701, surveyor John Lawson visited the Croatoan. He wrote, "These tell us that several of their ancestors were white people and could talk in a book as we do. This evidence links the Roanoke settlers to indigenous communities like the Lumbee, whose oral traditions maintain that their ancestors included these early white settlers." When John White reached the site in 1590, his own journal reflects his relief. He wrote that he had found a certain token that his family and friends were safe with Monteo. This suggests the merger was a successful and lasting alliance, forming an early integrated community. The mystery of Roanoke was sustained by a refusal to believe that English colonists would choose to assimilate into indigenous society. For later historians, it was simpler to frame the colony as lost than to acknowledge that they had adopted indigenous culture to survive. This story reflects human resilience and the early formation of a blended American identity. The word Croatoan served as a set of survival instructions that the Relief Party recognized. The barrier islands where this merger took place are still shaped by the same tides today. The Roanoke colony survived through integration, leaving a lineage that persists in the oral traditions of the region. On the Unveiled mystery, some historical trails lead to a transition rather than a loss.